It is the 22nd of April 2014. My name is Beryl Ooro. You're on Africa This Morning. Let's start the bulletin with a look at the top stories.
As the Easter weekend comes to a close, many businesses in Nairobi say business has been low due to security fears from among the Kenyans.
Marking Easter. Security forces alert as Kenyans celebrate Easter. South Korea ferry disaster. South Korea leader condemns ferry crew as death toll rises. Everest avalanche. Everest shepherds divided over call to hold climbs after fatal snowslide.
We'll start off in Kenya. Kenyans thronged recreational facilities in their hundreds to celebrate Easter Monday amid tight security patrols. Our reporter Hesbon Mugambi caught up with the action.
At Nairobi's Ooro Park, hundreds of Kenyans stand up to spend time with their families.
I've been having no time with my family, but at least luckily this Easter, I have some time with them. We came out for just some few hours. We will go back. At least we are still enjoying ourselves here.
Face painting, boat riding, horse and camel riding were some of the activities that many enjoyed. Following a spate of terror attacks in many parts of the country, security agencies were on high alert at various recreational facilities.
Security for now is a bit tight as compared with the few past years.
Many cite security fears as one of the factors that has contributed to the low turnout.
I was worried about security. We hope now we will find so many people here. And these people are targeting where there are many people. So that was our worry.
As the Easter weekend comes to a close, many businesses here in Nairobi say business has not been good in comparison to the previous years.
This year, the business has gone down as we compare to the last year.
Others attribute the low turnout to the rising cost of living.
I think it's the cost of living that has gone up. Even out there, life is hard.
Easter is the oldest Christian holiday celebrating the resurrection of Jesus Christ on the third day after his crucifixion. For Ebru Africa News, I'm Hesbon Mugambi.
The ever-congested streets of Nairobi usually have different spectacles featured during the holiday season. On this Easter holiday, it is not different. Residents of the capital and its environs took a break, and those left in the city had empty streets with no traffic. Many of those on holiday visited other towns like Nakuru and Kisumu City and the coastal town of Mombasa.
On a normal day in the streets of Nairobi, gridlock. But today, as Kenyans took a break from their busy schedule, it was all clear. Jams are, however, likely to be found on the main roads as holidaymakers come back to the city. Whereas the situation in Nairobi was calm, the coastal town of Mombasa was bustling with activity. The streets were busy. Police could be seen patrolling the streets to ensure all was well. Random screening by police are still being carried out in major shopping areas and other critical installations like the Ferry. At least 50 people have been arrested since Thursday for various offences. Hoteliers say that they have recorded a 70 to 80% booking, with domestic tourists taking the biggest share, although negative publicity arising from terrorism threats affected hotel bookings.
We owe the Nairobi residents one, because they've really supported domestic tourism. And today, that we may not be getting international tourists like in the past, I'm glad that the campaign Tembea Kenya is really working, because this is a campaign that was started by the Ministry of Tourism and Kenya Tourism Board around 5-6 years ago. It's now bearing fruit.
Hoteliers in Naivasha, Lakeside Town in the Rift Valley, benefited from the recent terror attacks and security crackdowns in Nairobi, with some recording a 75% booking.
As the world concluded its Easter holiday, Pope Francis called for an end to immense wastefulness that causes world hunger as the hard-hit Greeks celebrate Easter with their traditional feast. Pope Francis also called for an end to conflicts in Syria, Ukraine, and parts of Africa.
The faithful gather in St. Peter's Square to mark Easter, one of the holiest days in the Christian calendar. Easter commemorates the day Christians believe Jesus rose from the dead after his crucifixion, and the Church sees it as a symbol of hope, peace, and reconciliation among peoples and nations. Pope Francis focuses on the poor.
Help us to overcome the scourge of hunger aggravated by conflicts and by the immense wastefulness for which we are often responsible.
In England, the Archbishop of Canterbury uses his Easter sermon to highlight the plight of people living in war zones and those in Britain facing economic problems.
In Syria, mothers cry for their children and husbands. In the Ukraine, neighbors cry because the future is precarious and dangerous. In Rwanda, tears are still shed each day as the horror of genocide is remembered. In this country, even as the economy improves, there is weeping in broken families, in people ashamed to seek help from food banks or frightened by debt.
In debt-strapped Greece, the Easter spirit is in full force. Lamb is on the spit, and Easter eggs adorn tables.
We are waiting for the rest of the family to show up to celebrate. We will celebrate just like everybody else today. Of course, the economic crisis has affected us just like everybody else. But because today is a special day, I spent 54 euros for the half lamb. And I will cook it. Because that's how it should be, right?
With unemployment still topping 25% in Greece, Easter is a reminder of better times and better times to come.
Divers continue to retrieve bodies of passengers on board the stricken South Korean ferry, this time at a faster pace. The death toll from the ferry disaster stands at 64, but 238 people are still missing. South Korean President Park Geun-hye says the behavior of the captain and the crew of the sunken ferry was unacceptable and is tantamount to murder.
Divers returned the bodies of passengers of the ill-fated ferry to South Korea's southwestern shore. Hundreds are feared dead after Wednesday's fatal accident. Most of these victims were high school children on their way to a field trip on Jeju Island. Inside this tent, the bodies are identified and family DNA swabs are checked. The official death toll is 64, but only 174 passengers have been rescued and more than 200 people are still missing. A Coast Guard says 2 US underwater drones have been deployed in the search despite the challenges.
As you know, the tidal current is strong at the accident site. The usefulness of the remotely operated vehicle equipment is basically very low at a site where the tidal current is strong. It's not that efficient.
It's not yet known what caused the tragedy, but the ferry was being steered by an inexperienced third mate at the time of the accident. The captain and 2 other crew members have been charged with negligence of duty and violation of maritime law. It's little comfort for the parents and relatives of the missing on the pier. They can do nothing but wait for the almost inevitable news that their loved ones have died.
And to Nepal, to climb or not to climb. The Sherpas, highly regarded as elite mountaineers and experts in their local terrain, are now pondering on whether to move forward with the climbing season as they offer prayers for the 13 people killed following an avalanche on Mount Everest.
A time for prayer in Kathmandu after the deadliest accident ever on Mount Everest. At least 13 Sherpas were killed Friday when snow and huge chunks of ice swept down a perilous pass on the mountain. The search is now over for the 3 Sherpa guides still missing. The accident is focusing attention on the risk Sherpas take, carrying supplies for foreigners eager to climb the world's highest mountain. Overcrowding on Everest is an issue, where the number of fatal accidents has risen in recent decades, although it dropped last year. Some think there should be no more expeditions this year, but that can be a tough choice for people with few options. Sherpas can earn up to $5,000 a year in a country with an average annual income of just $700.
Some people want to return. It's a compulsion. The compulsion is mainly for the money because they don't have any other work. They are thinking of continuing. In my opinion, since such a big accident has happened, I feel it would be better if this year's expeditions are discontinued.
The government says it will be up to the Sherpas to decide whether or not to continue the season this year.
From politics to culture, known as a country with its feet in two worlds, Europe and Asia, though this conversation is yet to gain momentum, the identity and culture of the Turks has earned it recognition as one of the few states that has managed to balance religion and modernization. Even after the signing of several economic agreements between Turkey and Kenya, who exactly are the Turks? Ebru Africa went to the streets of Turkey, and here we are at Istanbul at the Hagia Sophia Mosque, and we sought to find out who exactly the Turks are. It's a country that embraces all, and I got a chance to meet people from afar off, many of them touring the country for several reasons.
Various place is very nice, and my family is very impressive. And she learned Roma's history, and Byzantine culture.
What did you feel about the Turks and the experience in Turkey?
Well, I liked it, and we wanted to go to this city because it has a lot of history and so.
I like
the
coffee.
We like the coffee, yes.
Yeah.
Kava, yes.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
This is our first visit in Turkey.
What do you feel about this particular center?
Something amazing. It's beautiful.
And what will you take from here? Because I know in Jordan you have a lot of history as well.
The mosques, the oldest of the history here, it's more than Jordan. Yes, there's many tourist things here, and we like it too much.
But one aspect that can be familiar to the Kenyan community is the coffee. To most Kenyans, coffee is part of our identity. As one of the major exports, we have a deep history with the aromatic drink. This time in downtown Istanbul, I got a chance to taste the flavor of the Ottoman's dark brew. Interesting thing about Turkish coffee is when you get this little cup of coffee, which seems very minute, it's actually very intense, you actually need a glass of water beside it to take it. And you'll find out the reason why as we consume it. Let me take. I'm from Kenya and I know coffee a bit, at least I think. But this coffee is different in the sense that it's very granulated. As we go along drinking, that's for me, you'll find out there's a sediment, a very thick sediment at the bottom of the cup. And that is actually cleaned out, and I actually loved this coffee. This is the first time I'm going to take it and I'm going to love it. It's different, but it's nice. Look at that. Thick and rich. This is the only coffee that can keep me up at night. See the residue? But that's what I'm going to sip up right now and then take my glass of water. Beyond sharing the same time zone, the identity of the Turks is one that could be familiar to the Kenyan population. A country of many colors within its borders. Beryl, Ooro, Ebru Africa, Istanbul, Turkey. To Matters Health, colorectal cancer, also known as colon cancer, is a cancer from uncontrolled cell growth in the colon. It is one of the most frequent types of cancer among men and women and accounts for over 600,000 deaths annually across the world. Our reporter Miriam Kanyugo spoke to experts and tells us how you can lower your risk of colon cancer by eating healthy and exercising regularly.
Most cases of colon cancer begin as small non-cancerous clumps of cells called adematous polyps. Over time, some of these polyps become colon cancers.
Colon cancer is a perfect example for something called multi-step carcinogenesis. Multi-step carcinogenesis means it is an evolution from slow progression. First initial stages, some minor changes in the colon mucosa, the outer covering of the colon. They will grow into a polyp, a small outgrowth, and that polyp become altered. Some mutations will be happening there, and that become cancerous. So it is a slow process. It's an evolution. All of a sudden, colon cancer do not occur.
Colon cancer patients who are obese before their diagnosis may have an increased risk of dying from their cancer and other causes, according to a research conducted by the World Health Organization. For every 5-point increase in BMI, there is a 7% higher risk of death from colon cancer. Symptoms of colorectal cancer typically include rectal bleeding and anemia, which are sometimes associated with weight loss and changes in bowel habits. Most colorectal cancers occur due to lifestyle and increasing age, with only a minority of cases associated with underlying genetic disorders.
The main thing is the diet. Previously, we were having a variety of diets that is providing a lot of roughage, but unfortunately now we are taking a lot of non-fiber refined foods. This is one important cause for colon cancer and hereditary causes.
Colorectal cancer is the third most commonly diagnosed cancer in the world, but it is more common in developed countries. Around 60% of cases were diagnosed in the developed world. It is estimated that worldwide in 2008, 1.2 million new cases of colorectal cancer were clinically diagnosed and that it killed nearly 608,000 people. Like all developed lifestyle diseases, the immune system gets damaged and weak and able to guard body against ailments. It is therefore vital to take a balanced diet and, more importantly, the roughage foods in the case of colon cancer.
Have a diet that has rich in fiber, rich in vegetables and fruits, and reduce on highly processed foods and take more wholesome foods.
Overall, the lifetime risk of developing colorectal cancer is about 1 in 20. This risk is slightly lower in women than in men. But how does the roughage foods work in assisting and improving digestion?
If you don't have fiber in the diet, there will be toxic accumulation of the toxins that can create troubles to the covering mucosa of the colon. But if you have more roughage or more fiber, the gastric emptying or the delaying of the bowel will not be that big, so there will be a regular bowel evacuation. So that is the main, very important thing about using more fiber diet.
A deficiency of fiber can lead to constipation, hemorrhoids, and elevated levels of cholesterol and sugar in the blood. Conversely, an excess of fiber can lead to a bowel obstruction, diarrhea, or even dehydration. Thus, individuals who increase their intake of fiber should in turn also increase their intake for water. Some of the foods high in fiber include in vegetables, carrots, cucumbers, zucchini. In fruits, there are guavas, pears, apples, and coconuts. In whole grains and nuts, there are dried herbs and spices, brown rice, oatmeal, amaranth, whole wheat, millet. Hormonal imbalance, which can also lead to colon cancer, can be caused by intake of red meat.
When you use this nyamachoma, that is your red meat, right? Nyamachoma. A lot of hormonal surges will be there because of the animal fat can produce hormonal variations in your body. This can also contribute to the occurrence of the cancer. So if you move more onto the fiber diet, then the chances of hormonal imbalance will be less.
Animal proteins are also known to cause cancer because they require more enzymes to digest, but the pancreas only produces 2 enzymes. For lack of enough enzymes, cancer cells will keep their protective protein coating and remain invisible to the immune system and start multiplying. But on the other hand, when one takes vegetable protein, pancreatic enzymes are not necessary to digest them, so one can eat as much vegetable protein as they need because supply of enzymes available to unmask cancer cells are in plenty. Discipline is one of the major vital components when it comes to keeping healthy and exercising, and this will be able to help somebody manage cancer. For Helpful Living, I'm Miriam Kanyugo.
And finally, in London, busking has become a much-loved feature of Britain's capital city, but it has been increasingly curbed as a result of conflicting rules from London's various authorities. Now, the mayor of the city has put together a task force which should make it easier for musicians to showcase their talents on London streets.
London street musicians have made the city famous for its live music. These musicians, known in the UK as buskers, are part of the city's musical legacy and key to the musical tourism industry, which brings around £600 million to the city each year.
London is great, is big for the music. I think if you want to be a musician, is the best place probably.
But in recent years, the city's confusing rules around busking have reduced the pool of talent on the streets. London has 32 different boroughs, each with its own rules and regulations on street performing. To keep this vibrant tradition alive, the Mayor of London has launched a new campaign to bring together various authorities and make it easier for buskers to get licenses to perform.
So the idea is to bring together the different boroughs, the Met Police, the Transport for London system, and the Musicians Union to try and talk about some of the similar problems that they all have and whether there are some creative ways to dealing with them. And I think our instinct is generally to try and minimise the amount of regulation.
And the idea seems to have found favour with London's busy commuters.
I think the Mayor's campaign is really good. I think it's a good idea to let people show their talent, especially if they haven't got a record deal or if they haven't got a way of showing their talent off there. I think busking is a great idea. Yeah.
Really enhances everybody's experience of walking around London, and I personally encourage it. I used to busk when I was about 18.
With the Mayor's office backing London street performers, it seems that London's reputation for live music will stay intact and buskers can play on.
And on that musical note, we come to the end of the Bulletin on Africa this morning. Join us next as we take a look at other leading stories on the social media platform on our segment on Trend.